My ministers believe that energy independence must be a long-term goal of national security and that the nation's energy security requires long-term investment and reform, as demonstrated by recent events in the Middle East. Increased production of clean British energy will help to ensure that enemies of the United Kingdom cannot attack the economic security of the British people.
Hello and welcome to the Ocean News Podcast, an audio series in which we take a deeper dive into the most important stories and biggest headlines from the Oceanographic newsroom. I'm Eva Cahill, the editorial assistant here at Oceanographic, and today's episode takes us from the gilded chambers of Westminster to the wind-battered waters of the North Sea. Once a year, the British King opens Parliament by reading out the government's legislative agenda. In his annual address yesterday, the King introduced a plan designed, in his words, to ensure that the enemies of the United Kingdom cannot attack the economic security of the British people. And this phrase refers to Energy Secretary Ed Miliband's new Energy Independence Bill, which moves to permanently end new North Sea oil and gas exploration, to ban fracking, and to accelerate the shift to wind and nuclear. Described as one of the most radical overhauls of British energy in a generation, the Energy Independence Bill draws on long-standing Labour commitments. But it took two major energy crises to force it through the door. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Europe was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Decades of dependence on Russian gas had handed an adversary a powerful economic weapon, and Britain felt the consequences directly, as wholesale prices surged and household bills followed. It was a crisis that exposed the fragility at the heart of the UK's energy system. Then, earlier this year, military escalation in the Middle East disrupted gas flows through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy choke points. Prices spiked again. For a government already committed to a green transition, these back-to-back shocks made the strategic case impossible to ignore. And for the first time, energy independence has become not just an environmental ambition, but a matter of national security. So, what exactly does this bill do, and how will it achieve this energy shift? Well, at its core, it is a package of sweeping structural changes to how Britain produces and prices its energy. It permanently bans new North Sea oil and gas licences. It outlaws onshore fracking. And it fast-tracks a major expansion of offshore wind and nuclear power. To fund the transition, the government is raising the windfall tax on energy firms from 45% to 55%. The bill also contains what analysts are calling an uncoupling mechanism. Historically, even cheap renewable energy was sold at high gas-driven market rates. This legislation forces energy companies into fixed-price contracts, so the price of wind power is no longer dragged upward by the price of gas. And if that works, it could permanently lower household bills. And for ocean advocates, the headline news is that new ban on North Sea drilling licences. And it is, by any measure, a significant moment. Conservationists have long argued that seismic surveys and extraction infrastructure cause serious disruption to marine habitats and risk devastating oil spills within UK marine protected areas. A permanent ban removes that threat from future development, in British waters at least. Executive Director and Vice President of Oceania UK, Hugo Tagholm, was outside Parliament yesterday, and he has welcomed the bill.
Today's King's speech could become a defining moment for the future health of our ocean. For years, Oceania UK has campaigned to expose the hidden ocean cost of offshore oil and gas, from pollution and oil spills to underwater noise, habitat destruction, and the growing pressure facing marine wildlife. Now, through the Energy Independence Bill, the government has an opportunity to honour its commitment to end new oil and gas licences in UK waters and stand firm against the pressure from fossil fuel lobbyists and anti-net zero voices. The decisions made in the weeks ahead will determine whether this bill delivers real progress or falls short of what our ocean truly needs. The North Sea is home to extraordinary wildlife and globally important marine habitats, yet these ecosystems are already under immense strain. At the same time, the future energy and job lies in the transition. Over the last decade, oil and gas jobs have fallen by around 70,000, whilst renewable energy has created more than 160,000 jobs across the UK. This is a chance for the UK to lead, protecting marine life, accelerating the transition to clean energy, and showing the world that the ocean protection belongs at the heart of political decision making. At Oceana UK, we believe our sea should not become a sacrifice zone for a declining fossil fuel industry. We'll be watching closely. Tell the government to hold the line and take action with us today. Thank you for your support.
As always, the picture is not necessarily straightforward. To hit its energy targets, the UK government is committing to a massive expansion of offshore wind. That means more turbines, more cable infrastructure, and more construction activity on the seabed. And some environmentalists warn that this risks industrialising marine habitats at a concerning pace. Others have pointed out that renewable infrastructure like offshore wind farms can act as artificial reefs, creating accidental sanctuaries or respite for certain marine species, particularly once construction is complete. But then there is also the question of nuclear power. The bill formally adopts the recommendations of the Nuclear Regulatory Review, known as the Fingleton Review, cutting through planning red tape to fast-track the construction of large-scale nuclear reactors. Environmental groups argue this includes watering down the habitats regulations that protect coastal and marine ecosystems. The bill prioritises building speed, but the question is, at what cost to the natural systems that sustain us? The political backlash has been fierce. On the right, Conservative Shadow Scottish Secretary Andy Bowie condemned the bill as a charter to close the North Sea, arguing that banning new exploration licences doesn't deliver energy independence, it simply swaps domestic production for foreign imports. The RSPB and the Wildlife Trust both called out the speech's near total silence on nature. The RSPB warned that fast-tracking offshore wind and solar without embedding explicit biodiversity criteria into GB's energy mandate will cause severe habitat damage and eventual legal gridlock. The Wildlife Trust, having apparently anticipated the omission, published their own alternative, King's Speech for Nature, demanding binding protections for river ecosystems, peatlands and marine areas now encroached upon by green energy expansion. Dr. Michael Burgas of Biodiversify put it plainly. You cannot credibly legislate for Britain's long-term security while treating the national systems that sustain it as an afterthought. Critics of the nuclear provisions have been equally pointed. The bill fast-tracks recommendations from the Fingleton Review to cut planning barriers for the new reactors. But campaigners argued that the review mischaracterises habitat protection laws as bureaucratic blockers, using the urgency of the energy crisis as a cover to weaken long-standing environmental safeguards. And in Westminster itself, the cross-party zero-hour campaign launched an immediate counter-push, calling for a nature and national security bill to run alongside the energy legislation. Drawing on a recent Joint Intelligence Committee assessment, they argue that ecosystem collapse isn't a side issue. Ignoring it while racing to build energy infrastructure, they say, poses a direct threat to food security and national resilience. The Energy Independence Bill is in many ways a bill shaped by crisis. By war, by volatile markets, and by the urgent reality of a planet warming faster than our energy systems can adapt. For the ocean, it offers both relief and risk. The end of new North Sea drilling is a genuine win. But the rapid industrialisation of offshore waters, the weakening of habitat protections, and the pace of nuclear development leave some important questions unanswered. The government's core argument is that this is a choice between short-term disruption and long-term security for people and the planet. But whether marine life gets a seat at that table remains to be seen. If you would like to learn more about this story or other stories related to our blue planet, head to the Oceanographic Newsroom. This has been the Ocean News Podcast. I've been Eva Cahill. Thank you for listening.